What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Risk of Rain 2 video. Today we're going to talk about the Mercenary a little bit, go into depth a little bit about how you can unlock them, but just a little bit about what makes this character so awesome and makes this character my personal favorite in this game. Alright, so this is something I didn't do during the other two reviews that I went over. I didn't go over the skills, I kind of went over them off the top of my head, but this I'm going to pull them up right here. Cybernetic enhancements, the Mercenary can jump twice, so he has a base double jump, which is amazing. Laser Sword, slice in front for 130% damage. Every third hit strikes in a greater area for 300% damage. Kind of self-explanatory. Whirlwind, quickly slice horizontally, twice, dealing 2 times 200% damage for the hits. If you hit them twice, it's 400%. That's not kind of. If airborne, you slice vertically instead. Later on in playthroughs, that's going to be the more relevant aspect. Blinding Assault, dash forward, stunning enemies for 200% damage. If you hit an enemy, you can dash again up to 3 total. So this is one of the most amazing abilities. You'll see me utilize this in the movement later. We're going to talk about movement of this character as well later. Eviscerate, target the nearest enemy, attacking them for 110% damage repeatedly. You cannot be hit for the duration. So again, that's his ultimate ability, if you will. He kind of goes and does a Master Yi Alpha Strike. I apologize if you hear the plane flying outside my window. I do live next to an airport. But there's a little combo with the Laser Sword, which is his basic left click. When the third strike hits for the 300% damage, right as that hits, you can whirlwind into them, and you just do an obscene amount of damage. A lot of people, they don't. No, it's not a combo. It kind of is. You don't want to whirlwind too early. Essentially, you don't want to hit them twice with your laser sword and then whirlwind into them, because you're just gimping yourself from damage at that point. So you want to make sure that once your laser sword does that final 300% damage, that you are smacking them with the whirlwind. Now, what makes this character so strong is his mobility and his utility. He isn't an essentially great solo player, because you do need a kind of critical mass of items to make it work. Now, if you notice, I've been playing on the Drizzle difficulty. I tried, and I'm not even kidding you, about 10 recordings on normal difficulty, which if you guys are in my stream, you'll know typically that's what I do play on. We'll play some Monsoon to get achievements or whatnot, but typically we're playing on normal. We'll jump on Monsoon to get a challenge, but very rarely do I touch Drizzle. If I just want like an overpowered game, I'll play that. But 10 times I got to round 3 or 4 and just did not have the right sequence of items. You know as you're going, like, if you don't have the right items, you're not going to get very far. And sure enough, my red was terrible on the 4th map, which is the map that you can guarantee a red to drop in, and it just wasn't working. So I said, you know what, for the sake of the video, I am going to put this on Drizzle. I'm going to be able to farm a little longer because the difficulty is going to go a lot slower, and I'm going to be okay. So that's what I did for this video, and I was able to put together a nice compilation of shots here. Now, the reason why I say he's so good at being a utility player is because his shift with the stuns, as you can see here, I got triple stun on him, jump in, ult him, and then just kind of blow this guy up. Now, if you don't have the rings from the Aqueduct achievement, which is the one you get from the desert, I will go over that. If you guys want me to, let me know, in the comment section, like, hey, I'd really like to know how to get those rings. It's pretty simple. You stand on some pressure plates, you open up a ancient gate, I think is what they call it. You go in, you kill 2 bosses, and you unlock 2 rings. One of them is a freezing ring, which you can see next to my Tougher Times up there, which is the teddy bear. And then the fire one I don't have yet in this run, but I do get it later. I'm not sure if I'm going to have the footage of that later. Anyway, those rings are massive DPS output increases. And the frozen one especially is amazing. When you have chance on hit things like the Tesla coil and things that are just bouncing around and hitting things, it can just slow them down. It really is amazing. Now, on this character, the best items as far that I've seen are the Soldier Syringe, which is one of the best commons you can get on this guy, as well as the Pauldrons, which you get that once you kill 3 enemies in rapid succession, your attack speed and movement speed increase by a lot. Soul Harvesters, crit. I mean, all this stuff is huge. Those are all the DPS stuff. Now, movement speed stuff on this guy is actually amazing. You get some hooves. The dove, or the quill, I'm sorry, or the quill. The wax quail is an amazing item. This might be the best item in the game, because this is where you can really show off your movement in the game. Now, I've mentioned it before. I've talked about it, that movement, this game has a kind of unique way of movement. It feels a lot like, and I'm not going to say it's identical, but those of you that played Counter-Strike with surfing or bee-hopping, it kind of feels the same. Movement in this game is very important, and it's an aspect that I think a lot of people don't really look at. It's an aspect that you don't need. Let me just start off by saying that. You don't need the movement, but this is by far the best movement character, and if you have good movement, you can just avoid getting hit for long periods of time, so your defensive items aren't, as important. Now, Tougher Times, still a great item on this character. Now, an item that is not good at all is the fungus. It is not good because this character, you should not be standing still except for at the end of rounds if you want to rest your fingers. It doesn't do anything for you. Now, an item as well as the syringe that is so important for him, it's like with everything, the stun grenades and whatnot. It's so many items are just good on this character, and the items are just good in general in this game. Crowbar is nuts. Now, the reason why Crowbar is nuts on this guy is because when you ult onto something, he does 130% damage per hit while in that ult. That Crowbar effect that does more damage based on the healthiness, if you jump in at 100%, your ult is going to do that 100. It's going to do the damage as if they're still at 100% until that ult is done. Now, that Crowbar in succession, and again, this is just as of the recording of this video, so I don't know if that's going to change later. That could very well change. They might change the way that Crowbar works or the way that the Mercenary ult works, but as of the recording of this video, that's how this works. Using the Soldier's Syringe with the Crowbar and the ult, your ult does so much more damage because it's going to do the duration damage on the boss, but it's also going to do the damage more amount of time. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Now, as far as AoE items go, I got the Tesla coil in conjunction with the hook, and it just kind of was a critical mass of things. I got the ceremonial knife as well. These are probably like the two or three best reds that you can get on this guy as far as offensively goes. Tesla coil in conjunction with the hook and the ceremonial knives is absolutely nuts. It's insane on any character, but it's especially good on this character. The hooks pulling things in as you're just AoEing everything down, you're mass stunning everything. It's really amazing. As far as the best red in general, I would say for this guy, the rejuvenation rack is probably the best for this guy, and I only say that because if you're able to combine the healing with your scythe and all that good stuff, as well as the rejuvenation rack, you literally don't die. My best runs with the Mercenary have been with that rejuvenation. I also wanted to address some early rumors about this character that I noticed on the Reddit pages, that I noticed on some of the fan pages and whatnot. I'm not entirely sure, even to this day, if they are true. There were some rumors that lunar coins have a higher chance to drop when you're playing the Mercenary. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I do know I've probably gotten more lunar coins on this character than any other character in the game. And a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that I've probably played the Mercenary longer than any other character, except for maybe the Engineer. And I definitely have gotten more lunar coins on this character than the Engineer, but that's could just be, bad RNG. Now, a lot of people also say that the Celestial Portal has a guaranteed spawn rate once you reach the snow map the second time around. Now that I believe is actually true, because I don't believe I've ever had a playthrough where I've made it to the snow map the second time through and I haven't had a Celestial Portal spawn. Now keep in mind, when you see at the beginning of your round on that snow map, when it says a Celestial Orb has spawned or has appeared, I believe is what it says, remember that you must beat that map in order to unlock the Celestial Portal. Don't go into your teleporter. Wait for that portal spawn. It'll be a big, like, kind of greenish white hue portal. You'll jump in there. You do a little parkour map. At that point in the game, you should have a lot of movement speed stuff, and it should be relatively easy to get to the end of this. And once you do that, you'll get to an obelisk, and it will end your run. So that's why I didn't do it during this run. I was moving along, and I was like, wow, I got a really good sequence of items. I really want to see how far I can go with this. I ended up going 15 rounds on this one myself, and then died to an overload worm because I just got a little cocky and jumped in there and fought him. Probably should have backed in, backed out. Certain mobs that you just can't fight relatively well on the Mercenary are like the Imp Overlord and the Overlord Worm. And the reason for Overload Worm, and the reason for that is because they have some pretty big Alpha Strike moves that if you're standing right in front of them, they'll destroy you. And since you're a melee character, you're probably going to be standing in front of them. The Imp Overlord has an ability that when he jumps in, and they just buffed his damage, so be careful of this, and he starts just pounding the ground in front of them and just destroying everything around. You just want to make sure that you're, dashing in, dashing out, making sure that when you see this, once he is doing this, jump in behind him, ultimate him, take care of him. You'll be able to do that. Just don't be standing there when he jumps in at you. Those are, some pretty basic tips or maneuvers that you can try there. Now, Another move with the Overlord worm, or Overlord. I keep saying Overlord. Overload worm is when he's doing his big lightning strikes, you kind of just don't want to be sitting around with him. That just kind of goes without saying. Don't be standing in the lightning. It's going to be striking all around you. That guy, you just want to dash in, dash out, do your ult on him, dash out again. It's just super important because those will one-shot you. Now, this may come as no surprise to you, and if it doesn't come as a surprise to you, I do apologize. This is more for people that are just trying to kind of figure out, how can I push on Mercenary? Now, the furthest that I've gotten on the Mercenary is 18 rounds. Still to this day, I've never gotten more than 30, except for on anybody except for the Engineer. But at that point, it didn't really matter because after wave 25, things just stopped spawning. It's a glitch in the game. They said they're working on it. Hopefully it gets fixed soon because I really wanted to see how far I can push on that Engineer. All in all, this character is my favorite character in Risk of Rain 2. The reason being, he just feels fun. He feels fluid. He's got great movement, and if you can show your movement just jumping around and not stopping and just killing everything, it's a fun way to play. The Engineer is a little more of a passive way, and the reason why I'm talking about the Engineer a lot is because in my previous video I mentioned that the Engineer was my favorite character, or was my second favorite character. Now, as far as the strongest goes, there's no comparing to the two of them, but this is a completely different style of play, and I can't wait to see what new characters that they release for us, because I just want to see how they integrate the movement of the Mercenary into maybe other guys. It just seems fun. Now, if you enjoy characters that you just don't stop and you just jump around and you feel overpowered, this is the one for you. The problem being, he is kind of very item dependent because some items are just really bad. If you don't get the right sequence of stuff, it can be really bad. Make sure you are buying your healing drones. I cannot even mention that enough on this guy. It is kind of hard because they have trouble keeping up with you. That's just kind of how it works with him. But it's worth it. It's 100% worth it, especially during the boss fights. Now, one thing I would say about him is once he gets too much movement speed, he can be a little hard to control. You're going to get a little bit of carpal tunnel in your wrist. Either play with high sensitivity or just have a big mouse pad that you can kind of swipe your mouse across with low sensitivity. That's what I do. But that's pretty much all I got for this. I pretty much went over everything I could as far as the strengths and whatnot. I can't say too much about this character. He's so fun. I hope you guys have fun with him too. Hope you guys enjoyed this review a little bit of the Mercenary. If you guys did, go ahead and leave a comment. If you didn't, go ahead and leave a comment too. I mean, I'm still doing this as a work in progress. I just enjoy this game so much, and I hope you guys are too. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.